I am here to argue that the state, the tribal Indian casinos should change their laws from allowing 18-year-olds to gamble to 21-year-olds. I argue that state tribal compacts be repealed and a federal law be put forth for Indian casinos to raise their gambling age to 21 because the reservation Indian economics and social economics are being negatively affected, as well as feed adolescents addiction earlier on in life than needed. Currently, there are now approximately 260 casinos on Indian reservations in 31 states and with $6.7 billion in revenue. That is the statistics from the negative effects of government-sponsored gambling. As most know, since Indian reservations are a sovereign state, they are allowed to set up their own laws to a certain extent. However, after the federal government gave tribes more control over their economic development, some began operating gaming places that conflicted with state and local laws. A number of states challenged these operations, but a series of Supreme Court cases were decided in the tribe's favor. To clarify the law, the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act was passed in 1988. Tribes could operate full-scale casinos gambling on reservations in any state that allowed such gambling anywhere within its borders, provided the details of the operation were set forth under a tribal state compact. And that is specifically where the Indian tribal governments get their right to start their own casinos. So, and they're able to allow 18-year-olds gamble there, so long as the state and tribal can agree on a compact. There are many consequences to allowing 18-year-olds to gamble. There are psychological, which leads to addiction. And the main consequence to addiction is economy, or money. In an article called Youth Gambling in 21st Century, Prevalence, Impact, and Intervention, most of the adolescents seeking treatment also report high levels of debt ranging from $3,000 to $25,000. Most also report having their debt paid off at least once by parents during their career as gamblers. Most also report having sold personal possessions or committed illegal activities in order to sustain their gambling. Another fact is that most also report failures in their academic and vocational pursuits, often related to the preoccupation with gambling. As a result, many adolescent problem gamblers end up with a lot of free time on their hands, which they devote to finding money to gamble. So, failure to do well in school will also fail you to get into a good college and able to get a job. And that will lead to them unable to pay off their debts. So the reason why they continue to gamble, though, is because it appears that for young problem and pathological gamblers, gambling is less perceived as a means to make money and functions more to provide stimulation, enjoyment, and a way of coping with difficulties. In a sense, gambling transports problems and pathological gamblers to a fantasy world without life's daily problems, anxiety, depression, and loneliness. And this hits the Native American tribe specifically because if you've ever been to one, they are of a low socioeconomic status. And the definition of low socioeconomic status is an economic or sociological combined total measures of a person's work experience and of individuals or family economics and social position in relations to others based on income, education, and occupation. Basically meaning that they are poor, they have no skills, they have no education. They are below the poverty line. And so this, and statistics to support that is from the Harvard Project of American Indian Economic Development. Real per capita income of Indians lining in Indian country was less than half the U.S. level. Real median household income of Indian families was little more than half the U.S. level. Indian unemployment was more than twice the U.S. rate. The share of Indian homes lacking complete plumbing was substantially higher than the U.S. overall level, and the proportions of Indian adults who were college graduates was half the proportions for the U.S. as a whole. And what that quote generally means is that Native Americans, they are living in a low lifestyle, and that is also one status that could lead them towards addiction, which would also lower the economic status further and stay in that low socioeconomic status. And in this quote here, they prove that those of the lowest SES or socioeconomic status gambled most frequently with the highest rate of at-risk problem gambling. A possible explanation for lower socioeconomic status adolescents gambling more excessively may be due to their perception of gambling as a practical means of improving their financial status, which is relevant because reservation children, they are born in poverty, they're raised in poverty, and they see this casino, this fancy glittery casino rising out from the dust and say, there's my answer right there to my poverty. I'll go gamble until I become rich. But that's not the case. And that will just lead them into more debt. And that is why I believe gambling age should be raised to 21. Because one does not have to be an economist to understand that false economy of gambling casinos in general. The vast sums of money lost there in the name of entertainment are often monies that lost by people who cannot afford to lose that money. Slot machines are a favorite vehicle to lose money, accounting for about 85% of the profits raked in by all casinos. So if you allow 18-year-olds to gamble, they start out this early on in life and they just get more and more into debt and usually reservation children don't have a job to pay this debt off. And so they're just digging themselves into a further hole of debt. And that's why we should let them be able to mature, make more reasonable decisions, go to school, get a job, before they can get rid of money that they don't have. Thank you.